Hi.
I mean, right at the beginning, straight out, and I thought it.
And we're just waiting a minute. The school board is running late, so no one's here yet, okay?
Okay.
I can tell you they are on their way. Because
Yep,
I just left.
Cost got settled. The school operates 3 days a week. Yeah. No hot lunch on Tuesday.
I spoke to Elizabeth, I showed. Oh, that's nice. So you're like.
That's fine. You can, I just want to make sure that there's enough spaces for,
Yeah, Annie Dyer. Natalie Dyer.
Okay. um,
Shirley Dowdy, who lives way out Monroe.
Rest of them are
He
coming.
was unbelievable.
Sorry, it's an executive. session, so we have to take care of it.
hopefully good
What's
things.
the topic? I got the message.
Yeah, Bob.
No, you ask, hopefully it's good things, and then yes or no.
Is it on there?
Yes, she's on here.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and did she tell you that she's got you on the cell phone?
I think I know.
I can't even remember her husband's name.
You can share, Elizabeth.
Oh, okay, so Ann's father was in the ICU, he's having surgery this evening. And
She was in Hamilton.
Hospital. She was supposed to come home Monday, but.
Sorry to hear that, Ann.
Hey, fortunately I was here.
Yeah.
And I don't think that reserve that you said at the playground is right. This says
Okay.
$7,000 I'm looking at. That makes me feel better than 400.
Makes you feel like you're not going crazy and maybe I am.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm okay with that.
Hello. But you don't want to sit next to me? The way you just looked at me and started backing
Every
up.
time we talk, that thing comes towards us.
Well, it's all, you're all gonna be on it, so. And every time you talk, it's on your tail.
Wood slanking to.
Yeah.
Is this all of you? 1, 2, 3, 4, yep.
Yeah, we're all here.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Plenty of space for you, Eliza. Do you want to bring Jeff a copy of those documents or no?
That's stuff from him.
Okay.
Me too.
You guys ready to open the workshops?
All of us.
Yes.
Up and running?
Up and running and live, and Ann is here remotely.
All right.
Forward to.
We're gonna go ahead and open the workshop now. This is a budget workshop of the school and the town together. And we're gonna keep it informal. We have one member of the public here, and then we have Ann dialing in via Zoom. So maybe good to start with any changes that you guys came up with in the meeting earlier today.
So we have one change for insurance for in the, oh, please. In the, category.
80.
80. What's the 8103, correct? Dan? Yeah.
Health insurance for
Yeah,
superintendent?
That's gonna go up about $5,000. It's not? No, it's currently at 11, well, our current budget's $11,676. So it'll be a little over $12,000.
You said a little over 500 or 5,000?
5,000, so
Okay.
the total will be increased to a little over $12,000. Right?
So 8103 right now is projected as 11,676.
We just made a change to increase that $5,000, so with that $5,000.
You're adding 5,000 onto that. Okay. Well,
Oh, thank you. Why did I get 12?
That's what I was trying to.
Adding past the
60,
11,
I know, that's what I was trying to clarify because the 12 didn't quite add up to that. All right, thank you.
Vika and Elizabeth, I'll also send an email with this out tomorrow that, just so that we're all on the same page.
I will not get it tomorrow, but thank you.
Another number which that is still, yeah, is, I don't know what number it would be under, but it would be under facilities and maintenance. Oh, yes, it'd be 86, no, it shouldn't stay that.
Oh, yep.
Repair and maintenance, 8608.
No, 8617, contracted services for mowing. We got a quote from a contractor out here for, would you say 12 mows for $7,500, which is what's in
here.
Yeah, I know.
But we have to add the other mower doing around the school as well.
That's
So-
just for the ball field. This is 7,500, would just be for the ball field.
Okay. And didn't we, I thought the rec was gonna take that over?
That was not.
No, there's
That was
no-
not a final
That was a
decision.
No finalized.
Got it.
So that number could potentially is going to go up because we have to add in the number for the person that's going to do around the building and the playground.
And how much do you think that will be? And this other
1,500.
contractor won't do that?
We split it. Because in order to get this contractor to do it, it's more efficient. It's we're looking to do the big areas with the technical equipment he has versus around the playground, which is more of the end of the thing when we have to go around the beds and around. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm just- yeah.
And can I ask you a question?
Ma'am,
If we were to look at the individual who mowed around the ball field last year, would that be a good estimate for you to know what to throw in?
yes, it would.
Cool. I don't know what the numbers off the top of my head, but I'll know how to find it.
Vika, I'm sitting here cranking. Come on, I can get this number. I can't.
Okay. So, 104 went up. 8103. Up.
I'm seeing down by 0.1% without the lawn mowing.
Correct.
Around the school.
Can I ask another question? Any discussion about the use of the undesignated funds and how those will be allocated?
So we did start that conversation tonight. Due to Ann's situation, she wasn't able to crunch the numbers. We do have a rough estimate of what the state will provide, the state subsidy as well as lunches, which will be 74,000. And we're still figuring out what we're going to do with the reserves, from the reserves, and what we're going to do with the undesignated funds.
When you say what you're gonna do from the reserve, allocating money.
Allocating money from the reserves, yeah. Because if you notice, general education went down, but special ed went up. So we have thrown around using some of our special ed reserves to offset those costs.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
So I realize that we have to get the ball field and everything mowed for this year, and it's gonna be $7,000 to $10,000 roughly to accomplish that. But how will, in everyone's opinion, how will you revisit the idea of the rec center taking that off the plate of the school board and moving it in-house to try to save some money moving forward for the taxpayer. In other words, what we did on the town side for mowing and dragging our roads and so on and so forth, we were paying $12,000 a year for rental. We purchased a machine by saving the money and making a plan to take that rental charge off of that department and trying to make it more efficient. But how will we revisit that in opinions as a community?
Yes. In order to decide what would make the best course of action, we needed to get a quote for the ball. So just this afternoon, we got that number. So I guess the question is, who could take to task the cost of purchasing a mower, town employees' time to do that, and the efficiency and utilization of the equipment, repair.
So the cost of mowing the ball field was how much?
7,500 for just the ball field, plus whatever number we had last year for the person who did the
Around it.
I think one challenge is, since the town, because the town owns that land, is our responsibility, especially with school kids using it, you know, a good chunk, like in the fall and in the spring, but then also during the year, it's like maintaining our school looking nice. So it would almost be like, it's either like charging like for use of the fields when people are utilizing it for camps or for other things, versus like them being responsible for mowing a town field, I would think. Would what, if we wanted.
I think this is a separate discussion that we need to follow up with the rec, just so I understand. Oh, what does the rec, how does the field and the rec, how does the ground on the rec?
In the past, we have hired someone to do it. And last year for 6 mows, it was 2,100 for the rec and 2,200 for kids' place, another 600 to remove stuff. So we actually spent $5,000 last year for those 6 mows, and it was a, so anyway, that's why from the rec's point of view, I looked into the cost of the purchase of a mower, hiring someone to mow just at our rec center, and the payback would be 1.5 years, and we would have hopefully a better job doing it. So I'm just going to say, to me, it just makes sense. We buy the mower, but the rec centers, do we have to be in a position to buy a mower to mow the ball field is a larger mower. But I'm just going to say, I've looked into it. If we bought one from John Deere, highest rated in several categories with Consumer Reports, we can buy from Hall Implement in Wyndham. If we buy from Hall Implement, they'll service it if needed. But they're also very good at being service-free. The big issue is it has to be stored indoors, so the deck stays dry. So there's some really daily or, you know, regular take good care of it stuff that needs to happen, but we could all save some money.
Still have to pay somebody to run the mower.
What was the cost of that mower?
Depends on which one, but I'd say $7,000 to $8,000. And in talking, we want one that can be beefy enough to do a wide swath and once in a while hit some bittersweet, but also be nimble enough to go around things. And there you have it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to bog down the budget talk. Sometimes you come to a conclusion that subcontracting out is not that much more for the headaches of ownership. But I'm just wondering, it sounded like we wanted to have more discussion in this area, which is a pretty high budget number, you know, for what it is, times number of years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's too long before you're at $100,000 spent.
My personal recommendation would be to have this conversation in the fall, next year, well before budget season starts, between the town, the rec and the school. And that this conversation and be sorted out before the budget season process.
That's why I'm
starts.
bringing it.
So
Thank you.
one of the notes that I have from the MOU discussion is that Matt specifically said that the rec center would like to take a stab at the lease agreement and potentially add the ball field under the lease agreement with the rec center property.
We're not in a position of being able to pay for a mower. You know, we're in a position to help and to negotiate, but we're really not in a position to be having that kind of an investment in a mower, especially when the bulk of the mowing is actually going to be on town-owned property. But we would be willing to participate in managing it. And we're having the shed for it be on our property, which I think would be ideal in many ways, to have a shed on the asphalt, which would make it last longer. But, you know, I think that can't we just buy a mower and make sure this gets mowed?
And
You're gonna spend the same on a mower, I'm sorry, than you would to have someone mow the ball field. And it would be a mower that could be beneficial to both organizations.
Plus
Thank
the
you.
cost of the shed, plus the labor, plus it's not,
I
I
understand.
don't think it would be a sound judgment to say, let's just do this without having an agreement in place. I think
I agree.
we should proceed with the contract arrangement
Okay.
with an outside party until we come to an agreement that talks about use and obligation and all that. I agree, long-term, having a mower at this point seems like the right way to go because it's been so hard to find contractors. But if we have a contractor for this year and we don't yet have a lease agreement, then let's budget accordingly. Carol, were you gonna say something?
well, I guess I don't want to get bogged down. The contract you guys are talking about, is that for the summer? Or that you're talking about, so we still have a problem for 24 with the rest of the grounds. So I don't think we should have this conversation. I think we should make sure there's enough money to cover the cost, but I think I would not wait until the beginning of the new fiscal year. I think this is the conversation we should have this month. And get a plan for this summer that's gonna work. But I think we were there the past year or two, we had, you know, kind of emergency mowing situations. I kind of think we can avoid that.
So if we have a contract for the ball field,
We haven't signed anything, we just
we
got
have
it
a
from the boss.
contract for the ball field. And is that person willing to do the rest of the school as well?
We can ask.
We could ask. The discussion was that his efficiency and willingness to do the mowing, the ball field was the best use of his time and equipment.
I guess I took that into account. But anyway.
And also, the person who did it last summer was Gennaro, right? Around the building,
He used his personal.
which is appropriate for around that building. A, it doesn't grow as fast as the ball field, and B, it's a much smaller and intricate area. So that's perfectly, that sounds to me perfectly appropriate to go this summer with the big guy doing the big job that's all wide open and Gennaro doing the hand push and,
And do we have money for that?
Well,
We're gonna
Ann
have-
said
we're
that would
gonna
have to
we're
be
gonna-
added.
We're gonna
and-
have to increase Gennaro's piece.
Yeah.
So the 7,500 that's there is what we've had in years past and it actually it was less.
Yeah.
But, so we're gonna have to I would probably guess 1,500, something like that.
why don't we go ahead and make that line $10,000 and move on.
Is Ann there?
So 8617.
Got it.
Just so we can end this, you know,
Yep.
move on.
Is the school board in consensus with that?
You moving that up 2,500 bucks?
I would concur with Bob's number of moving it right to $10,000 and let's keep talking.
So other topics from the school side. And so we don't yet have a number from the school side relative to what I would call the undesignated funds. I know it's called something different for the school.
No, it's called undesignated funds.
Right now it's 20.
Last year it was 20. You know, and earlier talked about kind of what our previous history was. In like 2017, we did 40. In 2018, we did 0. We did 0 for another year. Her suggestion is that we try to do a number that we can try to aim for every year versus like the 2022, 23, we did 150 towards the budget. So we're gonna try to work on that.
How much is in that pot right now?
We have 218,863 in our undesignated funds.
And
We
what's
need to
this?
keep 3% of our budget. So if our budget's 1.2, 3% of that is. That's more than quick
I
math.
mean, 300,000. So,
So roughly, she said anywhere from, anywhere between 20 and 50, you could, go to the taxpayers. And then figure out the rest into our, reserve account.
The reason I'm asking is that,
Those are very rough numbers.
right. As of right now, the total of the two budgets, and Vika, please step in and correct me, but I think we're at a 0% tax increase right now. Is that accurate?
Pretty much, yes.
So
Because the town is planning to use $250,000 of undesignated funds to offset the costs, which would bring that to pretty much, give or take a couple of dollars, a 0 increase.
And that's at the low end of our policy of utilization of undesignated funds.
Correct.
So we're being conservative from that standpoint. So I guess the point I wanted to make is, given the capital projects in front of us, looking forward, do we want to target a 0% tax increase? Do we want to target a 2% tax increase? I personally would not want to go much above 2, but I feel almost irresponsible targeting 0, given the realities of the economy in the past 12 to 24 months, and given the nature of the capital challenges looking forward. So that's a thought I wanted to put out there. Carol.
yeah, so before we go into that, next.
Sure, please. Yep.
So, on Department 8,000, which is the debt service, so your debt service went down like 26,000 for next year. Is that right?
Yes.
And then how much, this is debt service from the succession? Is that what we're doing? So we're almost done paying that off?
Correct.
Do you remember what, is it like a year or two?
I believe it's 20.
2 more years.
Yeah.
So you have next
26,
year
27
is
will be
roughly
done.
the same, right?
But-
And then it drops
Yeah, it'll
down.
be roughly the same. And then the 26, 27 is kind of a shift this year. It's gonna be significantly less.
That's all, that was all my, so we're almost done with that 100,000 round debt.
Yeah.
That couple of years that would. That gives us more buffer. So to get back to your question, yeah, I think the more money we put in capital, the better. I think the stone here is a no-brainer for potential funding or there's several thoughts, but I think that's kind of, unless the school, I guess one question for the school is, do you have any capital projects in 5 years?
I think the only real one that we would potentially be looking at would be a school bus. And when we looked into it last year, we looked into an electric school bus. And because of the age of our school bus, we did not qualify for the current grants. So we've had some issues with our bus, so I believe that would probably be the only, and correct me if you have any other input, but I believe that would probably be the largest expense that we would be looking at would be getting a new bus.
That, I would agree, and we are keeping our eyes and ears on the boiler. Because last year it gave us a little trouble, and also the kitchen stove, kitchen oven. Those are, and those are two items that, were not purchased new, with the renovation. And so we're just, they're working, and we treat them with kid gloves so that we don't have to spend any money on them.
And so do you have money in your capital reserves to pay for those if you need it?
I, remember in our capital,
I think that's something that we'll definitely be looking at when we discuss our, undesignated funds. Because right now we only have 66,000.
Yeah, so that fund 66,000.
Plenty of those.
So it seems to
Well,
me-
transportation.
You've got the school transportation reserve.
Right. So it seems to me one of the other side is school. Capital. We have nothing capital right now.
As of right now, we have not discussed what we're doing in the capital.
So the swing on your undesignated money, what's currently in the budget is 20, and the possibility,
Last year was 20, so that
is that what's in this year's budget as of right now?
Yeah.
Or is there-
I have not, I have,
nothing as of right now.
It's 20.
as of right now, the reserve account for the school, I have not touched compared to what it was last year. So
means
right
that-
now, it's in there as a 20.
So, that's what's in the budget now. So if you wanted to utilize the full, was it 60? Was that the number you mentioned earlier? 50? 50. If you wanted to utilize the 50 plus the 20 that's in there now, that's 70 that you could put into your capital reserves. And we would still be at a 0% tax increase as of right now.
Bob,
I believe. Yes,
Bob, according to our
Yeah.
books, according to the school books, we took $20,000 out of our special ed reserves last year to go towards this year's budget. And so I'm not sure how we would do it. Have we not touched it, Vika, and that's why you think we can roll it over?
No, so with the revenue numbers,
Yeah.
last year, the revenue undesignated fund showed as $20,000. And so right now in the current budget, it is showing that the school is using $20,000 to offset the taxes by putting it into revenue. Because
Okay.
that's what the number was there last year. And so I have not touched that line item at all
in trio.
in Trio. So the overall budget is included with the $20,000. So if that needs to be taken out, then I need to remove that. I haven't touched it because I haven't been told otherwise.
So hold on just a second.
So right now with the addition, so we're up 1%, right?
Expense wise.
Expense wise.
Right.
And then if we took out that 20,000,
It would increase.
If you took out that 20,000, it would increase how much you're up on the, well, it wouldn't increase your expenses. It would simply increase,
your revenue.
it would decrease your revenue and therefore increase the burden on the taxpayer. But if you leave that 20 in there, where we're currently at 0, and you take the 50 out of your undesignated fund, which still leaves you the required amount in your undesignated fund, then you could take that total of 70 and add that to your capital reserves with no change on taxes. Am I
This-
saying that correct?
Nope, this 20 would be to offset the
Oh,
revenue, not money going into the reserve.
so if you leave the 20 where it is, we're still at a 0% tax increase. If you take your 50 out of your undesignated fund balance and put it into your capital reserve, that adds to your capital reserve and doesn't increase taxes. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That seems worth considering if you think you might have to replace the boiler for 66.
Well, Yeah, the boiler, the oven, and the school bus. I mean,
Well, the school bus has its own account.
Yeah, but you could put it, we could put it in any of those, we could put it in any of those reserve accounts. Take that 50 and we could spread it, any way we want, any way the board wants, into those accounts. But
I understand that. Can they move money amongst capital accounts easier than we do, or they have the same restrictions?
No, they have, so they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reserve accounts that at the town meeting, taxpayers vote and approve and appropriate.
Mhm.
And if money needs to be moved out of those, it's done the same way that it's done for any other. That's my understanding. That's how it's been done in the past.
So I just was reacting, and to you saying it could go into any one of them. I was thinking you might want to be strategic about which one you put it into if they have names that mean you need to spend it on this name.
And that's something that was done last year for the first time, that in the town warrant, the entire description and titles of every reserve account was added in the town warrant. So as of last year, there is a specific description for each warrant, for each reserve account that has to be followed. And if
Yeah.
it's something different, then it has to go back to the taxpayers for approval.
And our ancient oracle of the budget, Mark, had something to say. Good, hand it.
Nothing profound. I just think that we've done a pretty decent job with our budget. I think we've attacked the capital part of it some. If it passes the way it's drafted right now, we'll have, just for example, $600,000 in the Stone Wharf account. I'm not saying that's a tremendous amount of money, but just for that one example of an infrastructure that's going to need some real attention in the near future, we need to show the Department of Transportation, in my opinion, I think you'll agree with this, Carol, that we're serious about addressing the insufficient height and design of that Stone Wharf to go after those federal and state monies. And the more money that we have in there, better that's going to look. Now that minimizes, and I don't mean to, the new town office, possibly the new fire and EMS rescue station that may be in the near future, and so on and so forth. It also ignores Cousins Island Wharf. But I look at Cousins Island Wharf a tiny bit differently. I think we can short-term probably use some of the existing escrow account that Yarmouth holds for immediate landing issues over there and try to make a bigger plan with them. So my point is, I'm fairly comfortable myself with the municipal side of things to present to the town meeting voters. I would like to see the school department consider taking some of their undesignated fund balance and putting it into stuff like the school bus reserve account, the boiler facilities reserve account, the plan for that, because I remember specifically when we did the remodel that the boiler was a big topic. We decided to leave it, and it's been fine, but like Amy said, I think you're on borrowed time with that boiler. So I know a school bus can cost you a couple $100,000 nowadays. Good one.
That was gonna be my question is there a ballpark estimate of what a boiler costs or what a school bus costs?
Well, that's 250,000.
And a boiler might not be a boiler. There might be more intelligent ways to heat.
Probably though, price wise, 100,000, 80,000, 100,000,
At least 100. Well,
Yeah, probably 70 to
70.
95, yeah. It's probably what you put in, like Bob said, there's some real high-tech systems now. I don't know what they would run off of. And I would hear you need to make sure that whatever you buy and install, you've got a maintenance agreement with somebody.
but it would,
Put in these
Chips.
high-tech computerized systems out here and not have somebody install.
I would encourage the school to consider a system that does heating and cooling, because it's not, the shoulder season is not going to get any cooler in the years ahead. On average, it's going to keep getting warmer, and 20 years from now, we might look back and say, boy, we really wish we would have added some sort of cooling capability when we put that new heat system in 20 years ago. Those are all your guys' stuff.
Yeah, and just one more point. I had forgotten and school committee that we prepped for the 400 amp service, but it didn't get delivered into the building. That's another area that needs to be addressed and finished.
Yeah, you go heat pump.
You start putting heat pumps in, it takes up breaker room and park quickly. Yeah.
So, Mark, what you said is that the breakers, we have you have 110 right now and we need 220, is that what you said? No,
We have a 200 amp service in the building. During the renovation, the wiring was made capable of a 400 amp breaker box, but the 400 amp breaker box could not be sourced because of supply chain issues. So that needs to be dealt with, especially to Jeff's point. If you're going heat pumps, you're going to need that
Yep.
breaker space and breaker capacity for the heat pumps.
Okay.
And Jeff, you had a comment you wanted to make?
Wonder if Viva could shed more light on the electrical costs that the school had been incurring, and then a significant shift in that cost that we just noticed last month. We had been just dealing with a $25 a month amount that was showing up, but then all of a sudden it jumped up to what was it? $200 something. Remember we talked, and it came up and it wasn't fully explained, I guess.
I think Vic got a good handle
I
on
make
that.
a suggestion. Can we deal with that offline? I don't think that's as much of a budget thing as it is a day-to-day operating thing.
The only thing I would say is to, don't decrease the budget because of those numbers.
Right.
But I can elaborate more later.
Okay.
You had a good,
Also,
Ann, did you have something, and then Carol, and then Courtney?
no, done.
Okay, Carol.
Well, and just so I'm fresh as for what, page 36, the tax commitment is up 226,000 or 7% from the board. And so is that a number from correctly?
So that number is generated from the main revenue tax rate calculation form that I sent over several weeks ago with the other information. I go into the Trio system and I plug in all the numbers that I have, and based on whatever is in the system from whatever the assessor has done, it calculates what the estimated amount will be raised by taxpayers. And so with that in mind, that is the number that was provided that I put in after the assessor had only been here once. And so I don't know whether personal property exempt, homestead exemption, those numbers are adjusted or impacted or will be between now and town meeting.
So I'm still not 100% clear. Is that a number generated out of Trio based on our current assessment, or is that a state equalized valuation?
It's a number that is generated after I plug in the town anticipated budget and expenses and revenues, and then off of whatever's already in the yeah.
It's a real number. And
Yes.
so but if we have things like homestead exemption and stuff, those things would just increase. Anything else is just going to increase our revenue. There's nothing.
So homestead exemption, taxable valuation of real estate, all those numbers are already incorporated to make that number.
Okay. So that's a big increase. So basically our overall revenue has gone up to 20,000 just from this year to last year. So we may have a 0% budget increase, but it's actually operational increase of a couple thousand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at the expenses, you see that.
No, I just wanted to know how kind of reliable that number was.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty reliable.
Sounded to me from what Vika described a couple of days ago to be pretty reliable, and based on increases in the actual value by way of construction, for example. It's not based on, we know it's not based on a mill rate increase. It's based on the valuation.
Yeah.
So it's, you could argue that as the number of people goes up, as the obligations of the town to maintain roads goes up by way of the number of people. I think it puts us into the fortunate position of having more money to spend. Perhaps for unfortunate reasons, but it's not an increase in Courtney's taxes or just taxes.
No, I understand. I just wanted to know how reliable the number was, because we're depending on.
If I may,
Yeah.
this may just be philosophical with me, but I want to be very transparent to the taxpayer. That even if tax bills stay the same, don't go up or go down a tiny bit, it isn't because the budget is not going up.
Right.
Budget and the spending is going up.
Right.
We're offsetting it on the town side by asking you to allow us to take $250,000
Mhm.
out of the undesignated fund balance and put it back in as revenue.
Yeah.
I want to be very transparent.
Yeah.
Herb
And
and I always made that clear.
yeah, I think from the expense side, the reasons that expenses have gone up are, for some taxpayers anyway, justified. It's more money on personnel in critical areas. And there are those realities of things like insurance going up. So
EMS coverage.
EMS coverage, yep, per diems.
And I guess the only,
Sure, then
the
Nancy.
only other thing that, if I was gonna put some money somewhere, given what we know about what could happen. We have in contingency, we bumped it up to 20,000.
Yeah,
And frankly,
20,
I would not be able to, I mean, our town side of the budget is, you know. It's not a good enough. In other words, I wouldn't be opposed to putting in a little more. in because- Yes.
You've been using it, completely wiping it clean the last
Right,
couple of
and I
years.
think we have some uncertainties coming. So if we wanted to make a decision that we might increase the tax by 1 or 2%, I would be opposed to putting more money on the town side,
How much?
at least 10,000. I mean, I just think we are gonna need that potentially.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we have to go to a special town meeting and all objects.
The contingency is on page 32 of our budget, and it allows the select board elected five individuals at their discretion to spend it on unforeseen issues.
it had been in the 2024, budget at 14,000. The initial for 2025 is at 20,000, so that's up by 6,000. And Carol, are you suggesting that we bump
Go to
that?
30 because the overall budget's 4 million.
Hmm.
School has 10,000 in their contingency. I suggest the town have 30,000. It's, you know, whatever percentage that is, it's a pretty small percentage of the overall number. And I don't know how much that would change the tax rate, but it's
1%.
how much?
30,000 is 1% of 3 million.
Okay,
Well, she's only projecting $10,000
10,000
more.
more, so that
Okay, I was
would
looking
be
at the total. I was-
0.3%.
Well, I was looking at it as a total percent of the budget. I think contingencies are often in large budgets considered as a percentage of the overall budget.
So the overall percentage, 1%
Yeah.
of our total budget is contingency.
And 10,000 as a increase in the mill rate is a very small number.
Okay.
But I want to take that logic and go back to the discussion about the stone pier.
Yeah.
In that, I know 600,000 is a big number. But my question, I don't have the answer, but my question is, when we're looking at a project that's gonna be 10 million or 15 million or whatever it's gonna be, does DOT look at 600,000 and say, you guys have done a great job? Or do they look at that and say, come back when you've raised some real money? I don't know the answer to the question, but I think we ought to be answering that. We ought to be asking the question.
I think the answer to that question is they want to have some match money, and if we have to bond it, then that's what we have to do. The more money we put in there, the less we have to bond. And
Okay.
nowadays, at the interest rates that we're seeing, even if we're bonding a portion of that project, say it's only 5 million. The less we bond, the more money we
Better, yeah.
save. So I don't think DOT is gonna, I mean, I think if we do a modest construction project, they're asking for 30% match these days. So that would get us 1.5 million. But, you know, I guess the answer to that is that the more we can put in that account, the better.
Nancy, you had a question?
In relationship to Jeff's question to Vika on electricity, Anne, are you still present?
Yes,
On the 8613 under facilities and maintenance, on page 7 for the school, we went down 11%. You dropped it from 4,500 to 4,000. So it's just to make note that we've had 2 years with post-COVID with the new construction for us to look at what our true energy costs are with the school solar town to come up. Maybe it's appropriate to be dropping 11%. Maybe it's not, for your comment.
I think we, from what I'm hearing from Vika, we probably don't want to talk about that tonight. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm just flagging that as something that we should be careful for Anne to communicate with you, so we know. You said we wouldn't drop it. But
Well, I guess my comment was leave it at it
oh, okay.
without, yeah.
Okay, so,
Just,
I'm sorry, yeah, Courtney, you were gonna say something.
well, two things. Did this get worked out too? Because I know that 8517, because we didn't budget for anything there. Page 6.
Page 6 of you.
Of the, so you guys, I gave everyone
It's on
3
page
different,
27.
yeah, page 27 of the total.
Let's see, special education transportation money.
Yes.
I have not received any information from the school about making any corrections or anything otherwise.
What
that
do
is,
you ask?
that is correct. Our, how do I say this? Vika and I have not had a chance to sit down and talk about the lines all individually, where the numbers versus what they say. I am, after Vika gave me the rundown of what she had in the lines, I'm okay with what they're called right now, because that's the number that I have in ours. And we can sort out the how they're titled before the final bell is rung.
So I guess my question is, the current line item under special ed 8517 right now is special education transportation, where there's currently $29,978 expended out of, with nothing had been budgeted and nothing anticipated budget. What is that line item being used for if it's not specific for that?
I would have to see what the bookkeeper has tagged to that line.
The transportation, the band that's there.
Right.
Right.
But I don't know what bills or payments that he's making out of that line.
So I will say that the no school payments get made without whatever the number you write on the bills.
Correct. But I have not used that number, so there must be like my estimate is, or my best educated guess would be, that there must be personnel being paid out of that line, and just needs to be moved to a different line. But I can get with Tim and find that out.
Does it have implications for, so we're very close to finalizing the budget before we put the warrant together.
Correct.
Sorry, first of all, I apologize for being late. I had some boat issues that I thought would be done about an hour and a half ago. So anyway, but I don't think that we anticipate any special education transportation expense next year.
Correct.
in Yarmouth that transportation cost is Yarmouth already is transporting. And just,
Right.
we are just kind of absorbing that cost.
But I guess the question for me is, if that wasn't being spent on special ed transportation and it was $30,000 that was not budgeted,
What,
then
yeah,
what was it being spent on? Because whatever it was being spent on, theoretically, we were looking at an inaccurate picture as we look at the budget on whatever line item that really should have been it.
Right.
That 29,000.
I agree with Ann. I think it's a salary thing. I think there's some numbers that are mixed up.
Okay.
Because if you look from year to date, we budgeted for, in special ed, 31 and only 2,500 have been taken out.
Right,
So-
so 8501, that's a concern. So are you saying that maybe that's?
I think Ann and Vika need to get together and look at the bookkeeping of that.
Yeah.
Because I do. concur with
Yeah, I
you.
see.
It could potentially be a.
Yeah, because it's,
A
the
salary
budget is 32,000
Mm-hmm.
and you only spent 2,500.
Correct.
And then could you explain why next year's budget is 64,000?
So we are going up to a full-time, this year we budgeted for a 60%, and next year we are due to the staff and to the needs of the children, we need to go up to 100%.
Yeah. And that, you've answered my question. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And that is not a guaranteed number because we haven't hired somebody yet. So if
That's
you
correct.
hire somebody with more experience than the 10 years we allotted, but that's also why it's important for us to keep the special ed contingency fund healthy
Yep.
for those types of things.
Makes sense.
If I may, Bob, I think one thing that Jeff might have missed with our discussion hasn't been settled on your side, I think, about what to do about any undesignated fund balance from your budget. But I don't know where we left that conversation. It's not our business as a separate group, but.
No, so basically we kind of had a brief conversation prior to attending. And we're gonna kind of decide what we're gonna do with that. The board has advised us that we do not need to really put a lot back into our budget because back to the taxpayers, because as it stands, the budget is pretty much at zero. However, Vika has left the $20,000 that we used for last year in this line item. So we would have to put $20,000, but they recommend that we use it and put it more into our reserve accounts for the boiler, the oven, the school bus, that sort of thing. Is their recommendation.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, and I just, I understand that there's questions about what will happen to it. I think at the last budget meeting that several of selectmen attended, we didn't know that the audit was done yet. So that was news since the last time we talked budget. So we still have to kind of have the conversation in-house. Go from there.
So any more questions on the school budget from anybody? Mark?
So Elizabeth, I'm just trying to make sure I process this correctly. Are you suggesting right now, the same amount of money that was put in back to the taxpayers to soften the blow of increase was $20,000 is still in there as far as TRIO is concerned?
Correct.
Right.
So right now, based on how the overall total budget is, and this is where I need sooner than later the clarification, there is a proposed $20,000 of undesignated funds that it's coming from the school undesignated fund reserve going into school revenue to offset the taxes, not into reserve accounts. So if
Yeah.
that is potentially something that the school board is not going to do and put everything into reserve accounts, then I need to know that because that will impact the overall taxation number that I need to change
That's my
for
question
the
for
revenue.
clarification. What do you think the intent of your board?
Can I ask a question on the select board
Yes.
side? Sorry, apologize if this has already been covered, but what is the percentage that the municipality tends to keep an undesignated?
We have a policy to keep no less than 16% of our operational municipal budget, which does not include our capital budget. And may have some other things that it doesn't include, but it's basically the operations budget on the municipal side. No less than 16%, no more than 24, 26, 23%.
Okay.
Something like that.
And it's a different policy than applies to the school, from what I've been told.
And,
Yeah, gotcha.
And the town is using $250,000 this year to
Which is
offset the taxes.
That's the low number. It's right at the 16% number.
I guess just in the conversation, we're at almost zero tax rating. So right in the ballpark. It might be a good time to put money into these capital accounts. You know, it's not gonna be.
Yeah. right, because you got, they pointed out, you got the school bus that possibly might need replacement in the near future, the heating and cooling system, the electrical 400 amp server, maybe an oven in the area.
Jeff, you had some? Jeff, go
Yeah,
ahead.
regarding the school renovation, debt that the town incurred, just where that stands. So what,
So the school renovation debt is under the town debt, which is, if you,
511, mine's 1165, 12, here. Page 20 of the big book.
yep. So when you ask, where does that stand as far as like, when is it over?
No, but what's the balance? I see you're paying 30, and you're budgeting 34,000 for the 45. I assume that's a real number that you know.
So the main bond bank, when you get, a bond through the main bond bank, gives you a schedule of each year, what the payment is, what the interest is. And based on that information is how these numbers get budgeted. So I take this information off of what's provided directly from main bond bank and plug those in, and then they bill us and then we pay for it. I can't tell you the number off the top of my head as far as what's left, but it's quite a bit still.
Yeah, it's like 20, I mean.
It was a 20, it's only been 3 or 4 years and it was a 20-year.
It's great that you're.
Yeah.
It is.
It's established when.
So
So it's all predictable, you have, you have,
Yeah.
and you have a bond schedule that you pay off.
And when the school did it, it was a lot cheaper to borrow than it is now. Now main bond bank percent is in like the 6%, which is ridiculous. So the broadband, we're paying a lot of money in interest.
20-year bond with a payment of about 115,000 a year, that'll go down as it's closer.
So,
Answer Mark's question that he asked
Yes.
about the $20,000.
yes,
Again, we still need to talk about it as a bond, but my say would be that we would probably leave that unless, I would not anticipate us taking that out.
Leave it in existing.
And then put the rest of whatever you have left into reserves.
That would be, but again. we
You need to meet as a board.
We need to have a conversation.
we can leave.
It's a smart move.
Yeah.
So back to the point I was making, or I'd like to make. I would feel good about a 2% tax increase if we were putting more money into capital in the form of the Stone Pier, Cousins Island float. No, not Cousins Island float, Stone Pier Public Safety Building. I think it would be a good idea to increase capital in those funds, given what's in front of us, given the desire to knock bonding down every little bit that we can as those projects come to fruition. So that's my opinion. Anybody on the board or the school board have any thoughts about that, or Vicky?
Not so much an opinion, just something to think about with the discussion that the board has recently had about bringing into the taxpayers of changing the Indian Island retaining wall to storm damage or something like that. With with the FEMA work that's anticipated, if you are looking to agree as a board to, you know, have a 2% increase and you're looking to where allocate the money for reserve, I think that that would be an account that would need money, because I think there are going to be a lot of expenses coming down the pike about storm damage repair work.
Good point, really good point. If I did the calculation correctly, if we were to shoot for a 2% tax increase, the amount we need to increase spending by was $81,500. That was before the
Oh.
change we made tonight to the school budget of 2,500 for the ball field, and wasn't there another
7,500 for the ball field.
wasn't there already 5,000 in there?
75 was already in there.
Gotcha.
We increased it.
By
25.
We increased by 2,500 there, and then
5,000 for insurance
Thank you.
under the superintendent.
Yep.
The 16,000, not 12,000.
Right, thank you. Bye-bye.
so 81,500 minus 7,500 is 74,000. Does the board have any thoughts about, should we leave the budget where it is and have theoretically a 0% tax increase? Should we contribute to capital more? What's the sense of the board? David and then Carol.
Well, it might never show up, but we've got $80,000 that's in the budget that's gonna go to broadband, that's gonna be reimbursed. So if we went up by 2% and that were to happen, we'd actually have a zero sum change in the budget.
Is that accurate?
It's
coming out of
essentially, yes, but
It's not guaranteed.
it's until I actually see that money coming in from Axiom, I'm from a budget perspective saying that we're taking on that debt until we can. So it would be I think realistically, yes, it makes sense, but as far as
I don't think. we should-
yeah,
not from a budgetary standpoint. I think we need to bank on it because they owe it.
yeah.
I guarantee that money's coming in. This fiscal year.
I think
In
possible.
as implementation starts up is when I understand the money's coming in. We've already had a few delays. I agree from a budget standpoint, we should not present that as.
But that would it would be a nice surprise if that did happen.
From a contractual standpoint, I would like to say that it's guaranteed.
And that would be more money going into the undesignated fund next year. So let's hope that happens.
Mark.
One question and then a comment. What are we going to propose to the taxpayers for that Indian Island retaining wall, which is about $58,000?
Today, all we've said is we're going to change the title of it and the description.
So we have no plans to say to them, we'd like to keep 20 or 25,000 and move 40,000. I'm just giving a rough number somewhere else. We have not decided that.
You mean for like the parking area, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't think that parking area is gonna cost more than $20,000.
Right, but I think even that can be sort of storm damage, justified as
It's resolved.
storm
Yeah.
damage. So I think we're just trying to make the fund more global, and Beaker's point is that
Raise
with the
it.
road damage.
Okay. So we're just gonna rename that fund with another description of allowed usage.
Right, but Vika is suggesting that we consider making a contribution to that fund this year that would add to the current balance of 65,000. Am I?
Right.
Correct. So
Given that-
in front of the taxpayers, what they would see is that reserve account would be changed to storm damage or whatever clever name I'm gonna bring to you for approval, with a description. Also asking to put more money into it as a result that when storm damages occur and we have to have repair work or, you know, gravel that has to be purchased or whatever, that there's money for that.
What if we need 20,000 of it? I'm just throwing this number out there. To build a new parking area for access to Indian Island. What do we do about that?
That access was ruined as a result of storm damages, and so I would argue that that is an appropriate expense, because you're relocating a parking spot that doesn't exist because it was damaged due to storms.
I guess from my perspective, I'm only gonna be comfortable adding more money into this budget if we have some specifics to back it up. Not just, we think there's going to be storm damage somewhere that we need to fix. It's not quite specific enough for me. I'm sorry. I just need to be more specific to the taxpayer. I understand the stone wharf is not being specific, but I think that one is pretty defensible.
And I would respectfully take a different viewpoint. I would say that the fact of future storm damage is becoming more clear to the taxpayers all the time, but that's, sounds like something we would agree to disagree. I would vote for, adding money to that. But
We're not fully, like,
Well,
well, I
you
think.
can't go to the motion.
well, you can do a consensus for next time. Are you talking 90, 70, Bob? Are you talking this reserve account right here?
91, 95.
Oh, I'm sorry, 91, 95 with one line.
Yeah, 57.
We currently have 65.
Can I
Yes.
make a comment?
Yeah.
So all budget discussions are a workshop. So if you do have recommendations, as long as 3 of you are in consensus of it, I would encourage you to make those necessary changes. Because there is really no other meeting that the select board has scheduled to have a budget discussion. When I return on the 18th, that 19th, what I'm doing is I'm putting the entire warrant together. That Monday, it's going to the attorney. That Thursday or Friday, it's going in the packet for you for hopefully a final approval. So we're kind of down to crunch time at this point for the budget standpoint.
So again, to get to a 2% increase, we needed to increase spending by 81,524. We've just increased the school in tonight's conversation compared to what was in this stuff.
Yeah, and I guess I don't have to think of it, get to that increase. I guess I'd like to ask what the board thinks about that. And now so that's something. And to me, I think sort of having a rule of thumb that it's approximately 1% of the operational budget, or I just think this is the year we might be. So I don't know how you feel.
I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fight about $10,000. That's fine.
Yeah, as I said, we're starting to string wire today, and I don't think we'll actually get that. But
Yeah, but we can't.
I know.
But I mean,
So we
I'm
can go ahead and do 2%.
I'm asking about whether we should. This is a 20,000, 30,000.
Well, when we do that, we're talking about raising it by 2%. So
No.
six of them has nothing, right? No?
2% is 81,524.
Yeah.
$10,000 is
That's 20,000, adding $20,000 to the,
proposing to add 10.
okay, now I'm confused.
There's already
20,000
20 in there.
20,000 in there, Carol's proposing that we add 10.
I'm sorry.
It's about.
And how much were you proposing to add to the newly to be, I think, you call it the storm damage account, is that the name you use?
Yes, whatever the name is that it winds up, the account formerly known as the Indian Point Retaining Wall. I would be comfortable adding $20,000.
And not for adding 10,000 to the.
I'm not done. I would add more. I would like to see us add $80,000. I think that's a prudent thing to do in light of the challenges in front of us. So I would add the 10,000 that I've already talked about with the school, which was 2,500 for loans, 5,000 for insurance. I would add
2,500 more.
5,000 for the insurance.
7,500.
Yeah, sorry, I did that wrong. 7,500 for the school.
Correct.
I would add 20,000 to the Indian Island / Storm Resiliency Fund. I would add 20,000 to the Stone Pier. I would add 10,000 to the public safety building, and 10,000 to contingency, and that will keep us under 2% by $14,000.
You say 20,000 to
Stone Pier.
public safety?
No, Stone Pier.
I thought you said something.
Oh, 10,000 to public safety.
10,000.
Yep.
So did you say 10, 20, 20 and 10?
7,500, the school increase that we talked about, 20,000 to storm, 20,000 to Stone Pier, 10,000 to public safety, 10,000 to contingency.
But correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we saw 10,000 on the school maintenance area, not 7,500.
No, the total increase was 7,500. So we had 7,500 in the mowing. We added additional 2,500 to bring it to 10. And then we added 5,000 to be insurance, 5,000 to be insurance under the superintendent, an additional 5,000.
Two adds total 7,500. Tonight's conversation on the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Just looking, just curious, so thought one, I mean, proposing 6% tax. Curious, I have no idea how, do you have a sense of where other towns are?
Yeah, I had a Southern Maine managers meeting today and they're kind of all over the board. A lot of, towns, either have like significant increases or they're flat. There are a couple of towns, I think it was at Cape Elizabeth, that had a decrease. But it's as a result of, certain things that were dropping off kind of. The South Portland, the 6%, they have 6 or 7% increase. In reality of it, the increase is only about 4%. What they're doing is they didn't budget properly in the current, so they're going a couple million over budget, so they're having to cover the current budget because they're going over in the next budget, so.
So what's your thinking about increasing the budget? Put it in our general area.
I think that if you're looking at a 1 or 2% increase, that you're comparing to what I heard today, you're not really gonna stick out a whole lot. You're gonna be right in the norm, yeah. I mean,
Is that current mill rate 9.50?
9.5.
$9.50
So
Per
$12,000 of value.
Yeah.
So that list of numbers that I just read off, if I did my math correctly, would result in a 1.66% tax increase.
So $500,000 valued house and piece of property, the property tax would go up probably about $100.
Once I put that information in and figure out what the approximate mill rate would be, I would be able to. I wouldn't be able to tell you that without putting all this
No, I
information
know,
in.
I'm just doing some rough,
Yeah, that's a lot.
probably close. I'm not trying to minimize anyone that doesn't want to see a tax increase. I'm just trying to. process it.
1.66% times 500,000 is $8,300.
How much?
$8,300.
That's not,
No.
no, that wouldn't, that
We're talking
wouldn't,
about the mill rate, Bob. So the
Just
mill
trying
rate.
to get that bill.
Okay.
Taxpayer,
We can do
they
this.
just want to.
raise your taxes $8,300. I'm moving to Violent if that happens.
I'm moving.
Yeah, me too.
When are we scheduled for a meeting?
We're not. We were scheduled for it this past year, because of the dramatic prices. Jackie recommended to hold off. The current assessor, that is what they do. And so I have spoken to them briefly to kind of get on their radar that that's something that the town would be interested in, based on what we have in their reserve account. We've, with the original estimates, we were right in line with what it would cost. But I think at this point, it would be difficult to really know anymore. So hopefully,
So the
Once-
ones, otherwise, it's sort of the raise, everybody, they just raise and all.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What's it supposed to be 80%?
Oh, I don't remember that information. I don't know that information.
So we're not recommending anything for reval reserve this year.
Correct.
We have about 80,000 in there.
Correct. And the current assessor knows roughly what we have in there and knows that we're not putting anything else in.
Make I did in that earlier calculation was I multiplied it by 500,000 instead of 500 because it's per thousand.
Maybe I confused you.
It would be an increase of 100.
Nice to see other people confused.
Does
7885.
does the Board of Selectmen have a contingency for if, the barging expenses are higher this coming year based on plant having to come into the stone pier for who knows how much longer?
We have not bumped that number up. We did just have to bump up disposal based on contract change.
The barging different, right?
Right.
But you should use your selectmen's contingency
That's
for that purpose.
That crossed my mind.
There was, I think, hold on, let me,
That's a, but we also could control. Down the way, yes, we were gonna have all this stuff. We've been looking at ourselves.
So with that list that I read off, what's the board think about that? See where we are on that idea and then move forward. I think we're getting close to finish with the conversation.
2% increase.
1.66%.
1.7.
1.7.
Normally I would be opposed. But I'm okay with it as long as we have good explanations on our. Or if someone gets up, I think moving forward in the future, I'm hoping that with the newly formed finance group and trying to get more efficient with budget processing, I think we did pretty well this year. I think we did a good job with that. I think a meeting before town meeting is gonna be very valuable.
Well, So, we did, last select board meeting, I said, I thought the board should do a budget presentation, informational budget presentation. So. And basically covering exactly these things, what is needed for $1,000, $500,000, whatever it is. But I think my question for the school committee is, you guys are thinking about the budget.
Yeah, we are doing that.
And so I didn't know if you wanted to do it at the same time, which I think would be preferable, but if you'd rather not, that's also fine, so I'm asking. And if you are thinking about it, what date you're thinking about, I'm thinking May sometime.
Yeah, I believe it's May 23rd.
Can you pick a day?
Yeah. That was on the tentative budget schedule.
Yeah.
That we talked about at the beginning of the, but, it's a Wednesday.
Are you comfortable with the town doing that?
Yeah, I know Ann's already started the presentation, so yeah.
What
So
time of
we'll
day?
plan on-
In the year 2010 at 6 at night. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I think it could hold a lot of value for some people if they just see and hear. Here's where the budget has been, here's where it has gone, here's what we're doing with capital planning and, debt service load. Here's what's gonna retire in 2027. Here's what's looking at the big project. Here's why we're putting money here, here, and here. And here's what it means to your actual tax bill.
Yeah, so I'll put them together, run it by the board. There you go. But I think what we're trying to avoid is what happened the last time we did questions that really belong.
Before the meeting,
We understood as we explained. Previously, we had a meeting on shows.
We can send out like a town
We should.
one-page postal patron thing,
Yeah.
just a basic. Cause I know one year, I mean, the school board had a whole thing, we came here, tried
That's what-
zooming it and no one showed up, so it would be very discouraging for that
And
to
that's
happen.
like the town meeting the following year.
Yes,
I think
yeah,
it was
yeah.
basically- People have a lot of questions, so I think we do it, if no one shows. People
Can you shake?
Yes.
So do we want to ask Vika to make these adjustments in the budget and then
So
call it
I'll
good?
just run down.
Yeah, run down those numbers because if, and let me know if you all approve with it, because I have not written those things.
2,500 increase in the school lawn
Yep.
mowing.
That I have,
5,000 increase in the school insurance number,
yep,
$20,000 extra to $20,000 to the Indian Island /Storms Fund, which is to be renamed. $20,000 more to the Stone Pier Fund contribution, 10,000 more to the Public Safety Building contribution, and 10,000 more to contingency.
public building facilities. When you
Yeah.
say public safety,
The new fire station. That-
so building facilities.
But we had a separate line for that.
I just,
So,
So new town off building facilities, you're right.
building facilities is any town owned, so transfer station, fire department, public works. New town office is specific to the new town office, so
But
You're
the
talking
new
about-
Town office is just the new town office.
correct,
Yes, okay, so building facilities, yes.
okay. So 10K,
fire department is the fire truck.
Fire department.
so
reserve.
fire department reserve is general fire department reserve account, yep. So, so we're going to, Stone Wharf is gonna be at 270. Building facilities is gonna be at 50. Indian or coastal erosion, whatever, I'll think of something clever to bring to you,
Mhm.
is 20K.
Yep.
And then you had a 10 somewhere else.
Contingency.
I already have that one. I thought you had another one for reserve.
No, this,
The
This
only
was-
10 was public safety, the facilities.
Okay, okay.
and the contingency, yeah.
So reserve accounts, it's 3 accounts that you're increasing from tonight's meeting. Stone Wharf, building facilities, and the current Indian Hall. Okay, then I have everything I need to make the changes.
Quickly, but I'm not sure Jeff knows, we had a meeting today with Rob Wood from DEP specifically about the Senate Bill 5 and everything, so we asked them some very questions along the way to, it doesn't sound like we're unable to use the facility to get some question on it. Stocks.
Yeah.
But so that's not completely out of play yet.
I think you guys are working on it. Yeah. Right.
We can, he said, without a permit, put down temporary matting or other such devices for a maximum of 6 months and 30 days per year.
Dan dropped off.
And I don't believe they have to be contiguous.
Are you,
Yes,
are you good with the budget part of it?
I think we are, unless anybody has, Ann, any further from you?
She just dropped
Oh,
off.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just once.
Anything else from school, Elizabeth? All good?
So I will make these changes Thursday, the 18th or Friday, the 19th.
Mhm.
I will email the select board the updated information, and just for the sake of it, and let me know if it's not helpful to email the school board like I have. I think it's helped having the information has really helped from the town and to be able to see those numbers in the system. And then, like I said, that Friday or the following Monday is when I will have all of the warrant articles on the town side. I will be sending them that Tuesday to the town attorney. She is going to turn around and give them to me back on Wednesday. So then on Friday, that town warrant will be finalized and put in the packet. So I'm hoping that from the school end, so you have the meeting the 21st, correct?
The 20.
The 23rd?
Yeah, so next.
It's a Tuesday?
It's a Tuesday, we're finalizing that.
Okay.
It's our final budget.
And so I know I've mentioned it to Ian and I've mentioned it to you.
Yeah, we're gonna try our best.
The school town warrants need to be, in order for the select board to approve the overall town warrant on May 1st and stay within the time frame that is required, the school board needs to have the town warrants to me by that Thursday, Friday morning at the latest, so I can add them to the town warrant. So then the town warrant could be finalized the following Wednesday.
So it's Thursday, Friday, 25th.
Yeah,
So we'll have voted at that point.
Yeah,
It's a matter of whether,
we're gonna try our best to get those to you.
yeah, so it's a matter, after we vote, the only thing that happens is Ann runs the numbers by the lawyer.
Yep.
and the warrant,
They
okay.
usually turn them around.
Okay, and that's what so that Tuesday that you guys are meeting, I'm sending it to our attorney. She's already told me she'll get them back to me that Wednesday. So then I have Thursday, and Friday morning, to be able to put that together and put it in the packet. So then it is properly advertised as it's supposed to with enough time before a meeting. So. All right, cool. Thank you.
Mark?
And if I may, to the school board, you guys are gonna think about putting some more money into your capital reserve account, your transportation and your maintenance, facilities maintenance.
Yep.
As a taxpayer and somebody who was heavily involved in that remodel, I would love to hear someday that you're finishing up the 400 amp service up inside.
Yeah, makes more sense every year to do it with the
You know,
technology.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's a workshop, so I think we just call it a wrap. And thank you to everybody for a lot of hard work.